Hey everyone, welcome to the Unity Project on Disclosure Now. This is kind of me and Nathan were talking, and Nathan had the idea to do something sort of along the lines of like just keeping up with each other and trying to keep up to date with disclosure, like collaborative testimony, and not only that, like just trying to get people on the same page, like and just have it be like a friendly place, I guess, where people can just hang out. And so it's kind of, I guess, maybe experimental. But for me personally, and I think Nathan will probably agree, I kind of just want this to be like laid back. We'll just talk about stuff, and people in the audience can chime in. And I don't know, we'll just kind of, what's your idea behind this as well? Because this was literally your idea. So if you can kind of explain how this all started.
Well, I think this is like the first episode that we just figure out what we're going to do. So we just throw out some ideas, compare and contrast, and maybe get some help from the audience. And it's a shame there's not more of us here tonight because that's what I was hoping. But we can just start here and just, we can work from there. But what my idea was to create a virtual town square so that if we have problems with someone in the community, we can meet there and have a discussion and talk about it. We can get to know each other more because there's a lot of people that don't know each other. There's a lot of people in the audience that don't know us. So my idea was maybe to open it up for everybody and kind of have just an open virtual meeting place so that we can squash these feuds and these suspicions and all of the negativity before it starts, because that's what's happening in this community. They're doing it remotely, psionically. One of the things that I've noticed is people will have either V2K handlers, they'll have spirit guides, or whatever it may be. They may have physical handlers, and they will tell you things about other people in the community that aren't necessarily true. And then, of course, if you believe it or you partially believe it, and then you repeat it to somebody else, and they trust you and your judgment and your discernment, it then turns into truth and it spreads. And before you know it, we're fighting each other in factions, and we're suspicious of one another, and everybody's pointing fingers, and they want to know who's with the cabal, who's the 100% controlled asset, and so on and so forth. So my idea is to give us all a chance to rip those walls and facades down, so we
Yeah.
really get a chance to know who we
I think
are.
that's great, and I think that kind of what I kind of experienced that a lot at the conference when you go or when you go to a place like a physical meeting space. So it's kind of like the same idea, just like, hey, come hang out, but like in a virtual realm. Also, like
Right.
Matthew, you're in the comments right now. If you want to come on the show right now, you no pressure, but you're more than welcome to join this conversation. Um, so just comment if you want to, and I'll just comment the link because that's kind of the idea behind it. Also, I think Dan Armstrong might be joining us. I don't know what happened. He might have forgot or something. He was supposed to be here too, because we were literally talking at the same time when we came up with this idea, and I was like, "Hey, you want to come on?" And then I'll admit I forgot. I meant to reach out to more people. I came up with like 4 ideas at the same time, tried to execute them at the same time. Realized that was a bit much. Like with the idea of turning this into like this is more like a TV channel sort of, and then there's
Mhm.
different shows, like for instance this one, and just like with different themes. Like another thing I want to say too is I was gonna have the third eye investigation thing, which is kind of like her idea. I was gonna have that on Thursdays at like the same time as Jessica Jones show. That was an accident. We're gonna change the time of that. Yeah. We don't want to have it at the same time as her show. So hey, Mario, if you want to join this conversation as well. So we got Matthew Morney in the chat. Mario, what we're going to do is we're just going to put the link in here, and you guys can join the conversation with us. So, yeah, this is free flowing. We're just hanging out. This is probably going to be the most, hopefully, relaxed show we have. I know that we're going to have to talk about some things that aren't necessarily comfortable, but we're going to try to do it in the most laid back possible way, if that makes any sense. Totally chill, totally understandable, Mario. Well, it's there for uh Matthew if he wants it, or anybody else who may feels like they have something to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, and if there's anybody out there that is, concerned about showing their face and they've never done it before, but they just want to talk, come on and, we'll just do audio.
Yeah. Matthew says next one. So he's doing a water fast. So
he feels like crap.
Yeah, so maybe not the best time. And then Mario's at work. So yeah, but that's all right. I'm wondering where Dan is. Maybe I could just shoot him a message. See.
Yeah, I think what it is, we just kind of threw this out there and we didn't really make it like solidify it, like say, here it is. So you got to chase people down sometimes. But, that's cool because this is the first one. So we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do with it. And no pressure at all. But if we can get a third, fourth person here, that'd be great.
Yeah, right.
Even just people, contributing in and expressing themselves and whatever they got to say.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the things that we could really use in this community, and I guess like part of the ethos of this show is like I feel like at least like for me, like just like kind of the idea behind it, like I like is like just because a conversation is maybe like intense or whatever, like because I feel like that might happen on here. That doesn't mean it can't be a productive or good conversation, like maybe uncomfortable conversations and things like that. So, and I think one of the things that we're gonna have to do with this show, or one of the ideas that I have, and the reasons why I want to do it is when we do have maybe some conflicting ideas in the community, I think it's important that we try to figure out why and understand why instead of just like disagree with each other behind the scenes. Like we can talk about these things and we can figure out like what's actually going on. Like one topic that I really want to talk about is like the archangels, because there's people who say they're bad, there's people who say they're good, there's people who say they're just in between, and it's very much so people get heated when you talk about it. Like that'd be one thing we could do a show on, and just like certain things like where if we talk about it in an intellectual way and we're not like trying to be right and we're actually listening to each other, we could probably learn a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think we need to do something else, which is reinforce the notion that we're family, whether we like it or not. Because when we die, if we don't get out of this, we're going to see each other again, and we're seeing each other right now. Our pieces are, and we're not fully aware of that, but we recognize each other, we sense it. So why are we treating each other like shit? We live in a world of normal people.
Said anything like, what do you think of like this community and some of the stuff that you've seen with like people like not getting along, I guess?
Well, it's a very compared to I'm a community person. Like I'm a person who likes to join like communities and subcultures and whatnot, and this community compared to others that I've been in is very it's very small, very, very small. I guess it's only sort of natural that infighting and drama would occur, I suppose, and like people disagreeing with each other, because it's not like you're fighting with random person on the internet. A lot of the time it's somebody that that you've done videos with and seen at conferences and stuff like that. So I guess the size of the small size of this community can make it very easy for a lot of infighting to occur, I suppose.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of manipulation too, Kat. And
yeah,
one of the things that I've noticed is the more turmoil that they create, it seems to me that the more they create, the more of a deterrent it is for other people to come forward, because it just seems it'll eventually get to be a hostile place to just come out and express all this stuff, which already is a struggle in and of itself, because people think you're mentally ill, they think you're lying, that you're just making it up, or there's something really wrong with you that you would do that. And you need a place where you can feel comfortable. And if we're fighting with each other and people are getting attacked and we're not sticking up for each other. So for example, if there's somebody out there that's slandering a lot of us, I think we need to have the ability to come together and have a discussion about it. That way, before things get out, and then like I said, they start out as a rumor and then they become true.
But also, like when these things happen, like where there's like two people in the community, and they're getting along, they're working together, and then Next thing you know, they're slandering each other.
Hmm.
And by a larger perspective, from both sides, no matter who it is, who's right, who's wrong in the situation, it makes us all look bad when we don't get along and we start mudslinging at each other. So I don't know how we mitigate that, but I figure like having a show like this where it's just we try to be laid back, I guess, about it and just really just talk. Like you said, this is like a living room or something, like a virtual space. Imagine we're all just kind of sitting on a couch, you know what I mean, and we're just having a chat. And um, yeah, I don't know. We did it anyway today, even though I kind of dropped the ball on getting a big group together. But it's good to just do it, even with the three of us, just so we can be like, hey, this is the thing now.
Yeah.
And
Right,
do it
exactly.
again, keep on doing it better. So
That's how I felt with it. Because when I didn't hear from you earlier, I thought, man, was it next weekend? I mean, actually next Wednesday. And I'm thinking,
yeah,
I thought it was tonight, but
I
it
should
really
have.
doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to like. I even have like.
No, don't worry about it. This is a start because that's the most important thing. We got our foot in the doors. We made our mark, and we got to get more people in, to do this. And you got to leave I think we should have some rules. You leave your ego at the door, and you come in with the desire to make this community a better place and to feel better about yourself and each other. Because I hate having to have negative feelings about anybody in this community. And I don't want them to have negative feelings about me, and I don't want other people to be fighting. So I want things to work out. We treat each other like shit in these programs because they make us do that. So why should we do that here because they make us do that? It just makes absolutely no sense. And I know you agree with that.
Yeah, there's somebody here saying that Matthew Morning is a hack and should be exiled from the community, and I disagree.
I'm hoping that's a joke. I'm not sure if it is or not.
Yeah, it might be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're gonna joke, don't do it here. Just be serious. Say what you have to say. It's a shame that people say stuff like that. I mean, to slander somebody that you don't know, even if it's a joke. If it's a joke, then that's cool. But there are people saying that, and they're saying things about me. They're saying things about all of us.
Yeah.
And we have a right to speak up, and I think we should stick together because we're being called a cult.
This is an open conduit to where, like, when people are like saying things like that, for instance, like you want to call Matthew Morning a hack, like, come on our show and try to do that. See how well. I mean, it's just like we'll give you people the opportunity to defend themselves. So, and I'm sure Matthew is more than willing to do so, but probably not right now because he's on a water fast. And he probably is kind of out of it.
Well, he's had a lot of water with that hurricane. So, I didn't expect him to be here tonight. I was hoping, but, there's just been a lot of things that have happened this past week to a lot of people. I got a friend, Evie Lorgan, and she's in the Asheville area, and she still doesn't have her utilities hooked up yet. She's still in a state of recovery from the hurricane, but she didn't get flooded out there, thankfully. So if anybody knows Evie Lorgan, she's okay. I talked to her yesterday and about a week ago. So things are straightening out there, but it's going to take a while. And these are people in our community that matter. We all matter, and we should all care about each other.
Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of one of the things too, is like with this show, let's just say with this comment here, because I'm just going to put up, I think that Matthew Morning is a hack and should be exiled from the community. It's kind of like not the energy of this show. That's like not what's going on here. We're not like, all right, who are we going to exile?
Who are we going to talk shit about
and
today?
exile from the community next? Like, that's literally the opposite intention of the show. The intention of the show is like, let's say if you had some feelings about Matthew and you're like, I got some work done and I felt it was not genuine and other people have said this, and that'd be different. It's just the whole attitude behind it and the energy behind it is just very like schmeary and doesn't seem very genuine. I don't know. Like, that's not really the attitude we have. We're not trying to figure out who to exile from the community next. It's literally the opposite. We're trying to figure out how to bring people
into the community. There's so many people that are out there that haven't said anything, that haven't spoke up, that haven't admitted that they're involved in this too, and they're afraid to talk. And we want to bring those people in. The more people we have, the more of a voice that we have. If not, I mean, we're not getting anywhere with what we're doing. We're fighting with each other. People are jealous of each other, and for what? Just because somebody can remember more than somebody else, or somebody goes to a conference versus someone else, it doesn't make any sense. I think we've lost our way, and it's time to get it back.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about some crazy far out shit, I was just informed that I have an AI voice box that was surgically implanted by Kruger in my throat. I don't know if you've heard about that. That was the latest accusation towards me, and it was also sent towards Rebecca Rose too. So we both have that, and I need to get a hold of her to see if I can get some apps to download to this thing, because I want to be karaoke king of the AI voice box.
Yeah, be like that scene in that one movie where she sings so high. What is that? What movie is that? The alien sings really high. What movie is that?
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of.
I'm sure people in the audience probably.
Yeah. Well, I know I've been trying to do a reinforced falsetto with King Diamond for 30 years in the car by myself, so this will come in handy for that.
There yeah.
But yeah, there's just crazy shit going on. I mean, and I talked to you about, Kimberly McGeorge, and she's doing hit pieces on all of us right now. She hasn't gotten you guys, but she did Matthew Mordian. She's done a couple other people. She did Rebecca. She did Evie Lorgan. She mentioned me. I'm the guy that shall not be named. The feds got involved and put her behind it. So she's freaking out that the FBI would pull her aside and say.
Here's a good question for this, and I'm very curious about people in the chat with this, because I'm going to name some names here. For instance, okay, Penny Bradley is my mother. She is, my biological mother. I don't know if you know that, like from the programs. I have a different fake mom in here now. It was actually my daughter. The point is, she's my daughter. Penny is my mom, so I don't really like it when people talk bad about her. And the ACIO people made a video saying she's like working for the Mexican cartel and she's a drug dealer. And I know that some of the ACIO information is true, and like, I don't know how I feel about Peter the Insider. He gives me bad vibes, but these are people that, like, a lot of people, they'll watch their videos and stuff like that. And I made a video addressing that, saying that that's BS. And it's like, I don't know, like, what do we do when people in the community just are like unreasonable?
Yeah, that just came. Yeah, that video about attacking Penny, that just came out of totally left field. I saw that and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I was not expecting that at all when that came out.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I remember Penny. I have a very short memory of her meeting her in a military cafeteria, and we were close friends. And she was like a big sister kind of thing, So, and it happened when I first talked to her on Facebook Messenger. We were just doing a chat, and it just hit me right in the middle of it. And I don't like when people talk about her, and I don't. It isn't right to slander anybody. And that is a ridiculous.
So here's
it is totally ridiculous to say that.
A good point to make with this is like, okay, let's say if somebody has like these kind of thoughts in the community, like let's say somebody, Nathan, thinks that let's just throw it out there that you're a drug dealer or some crazy shit like that, right? And they can come on the show. We can talk about these things. You don't have to make a YouTube. I mean, I know I'm not the most well-known guy in the world, but like, wouldn't it be nice if instead of making slander videos about each other, we could just like talk about stuff, figure out how to get on the same page,
right?
Literally talk. And I don't know, and I just don't know. I guess they were mad. The ACIO people were mad that she said that they're part of the NSA, and they say they're not. It's all this conjecture stuff, like. But it's just it just makes me wonder, like, what the public thinks about these kinds of things. Like, if you're just a normal person from the outside, and let's just say you found the ACIO videos with Peter the Insider and stuff, and you're watching them, and you're kind of enjoying the information. You feel like you're learning things. And also they say this lady's like a drug dealer working with the cartel, and it's like this lady that like this disabled lady that's like living in California in like an apartment complex. Like, I don't know. It's just like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, how do you? I just don't know how to address that. I don't know how to deal with people just being straight up slanderous.
Yeah, it's like, how do you deal with stuff that just comes out of total left field? I guess the best thing to do is either, I don't know, I guess the best thing to do is probably ignore it, but then again, things can snowball, and I don't know.
I think here's what I think is the best thing to do is to engage, and I guess this can be a conduit for engaging with those kinds of things. When we see a narrative playing out, we can come on here, sound the alarm, and be like, hey, so in this instance, it'd be like, you think Penny's a drug dealer, how about you come on our show and talk to Penny, and she'll explain to you how she's not, and you'll try to explain to her why she is, or whatever. You guys can defend your positions. Because unless you're willing to do that, I mean, you said you discovered me through my video with Shane the Runer. That's the kind of guy I am. It's like, if you disagree with me or whatever, I'm willing to talk to you about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to present my side and have you explain to me why I'm wrong. And you know, if I'm wrong, I want to learn that, and I want to know that, and I want to grow.
Right, exactly. You know, I was thinking about you earlier, where you're at right now in your personality recovery, and I guess you call it personality recovery and development. Because when we come out of the womb with all of this shit, you know, this emotional things that are wrong with us, you know, we come out of the womb pretty much, you know, half destroyed, and we have to piece it back together. You're doing a lot better than I was at the same age, so I want to commend you on that. And when I saw you in that video, I saw a lot of potential for somebody who could do a lot of good in this community, knowing how bad it was when I started to get into it. And I tried going public in 2008 and took stabs at it, but I was heavily mind controlled. And by the time Rob started his podcast and I found that, he was the only person who gave me a chance to talk, and I was still pretty much out there. And you know, but it was hard to break into this community, and I kind of had to force my way in out of necessity, because I had to try to save myself, and I had to figure out what was going on with me. I don't like to, you know, well, I don't want to see other people have to go through that. I want it to be more open than that. When I came in this community, it was full of cliques, and it still is to some degree, but it has started to change, and there's little pockets of positivity going on. And things are changing, and I'm seeing that. So, like I said, when I saw you, I saw the potential for a collaboration in the future. Once I dealt with a lot of my own baggage, and I think I've gotten a lot of that sorted away now. So I think this is a good time to do this, especially after the conference, because that stirred up so much shit, and it still isn't over with. And until we fix that and we get everything else straightened out and we have a place where we can settle things before they start.
Be here for the next conversation.
Yeah.
Like this, because you know what? I think somebody's saying this. Rob, dude, Rob Khalil needs to be for the next conversation. Because isn't he the best at just like being cool with everybody and just being open-minded and just giving everybody a chance? Like, isn't that kind of his thing?
Yes.
Like,
and he's caught in the middle. He feels caught in the middle of all these conflicts. He's got people pulling him in different directions. Like, hey, don't put so and so on.
We need
because
to.
I don't want to go with
ask
him.
him to be on the next show, because we'll just do this again next Wednesday, right? And we should ask him to be on.
So he's kind of like Switzerland, like he's kind of more neutral about it.
Well, yeah, he just wants to hear people tell their stories and give people a chance and kind of be the Art Bell of the internet, so to speak. You know what I mean? The modern age. That's what I look him at as. He's like the modern Art Bell. Like,
he just needs that voice box, man, like I've got, and you know, Rebecca's got. So just download the Art Bell voice app and you're good to go. It sounds just like it.
That reminds me of the soundboards where you can be like Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff, and like
yeah.
When we were kids, we would prank call people with these soundboards.
Dude, when I know Rebecca's got the Kruger App Store link. As soon as I get it from her, you're gonna see some cool stuff.
Yeah, dude, you should do some Arnold Schwarzenegger prank calls.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I guess he probably is. I've seen.
Plus, I have the German accent too. I can get that out. I can get that one. It's the matter of whatever software I get to pick, from the Kruger library, right?
The only real one's a true original. By the way, I removed Warblewomb, who I believe is just Jesse Belk. Pretty sure it's just Jesse Belk.
Yeah.
It's like I figured out who one of the trolls is at least. I'm not sure if they're all the same person, but one of them, the guy that was pretending to be Preston and other things, was Jesse Bulk. That guy's such a fucking hater, dude. Like like I've blocked this guy on so many fucking accounts. Like just told him to just fucking leave me alone. He won't leave me alone. Like it's really pathetic, but it is what it is, man.
They last a couple of years. I had a troll like that for a good 2 years, and he was going around calling me a pathological liar. And he would get in my Telegram group under different names and then just start asking these repetitive, really just abrasive questions. And then he'd resort to personal attacks that were kind of just like veiled under what he was questioning you about. And he'd take stabs at you. And then it would just, and after a while, it just got like ridiculous. I think I removed him 20 times. He finally gave up. But that's the kind of shit that we deal with. You'll have people, and I know that some of these people are just have problems. But there's other people that have problems and they're being directed to do that. And they're really easy to manipulate somebody that's going to do it anyway. It's very easy to do that. That's the way mind control works the best, when you profile the victim and then use them if they're the right fit. It's like the glove on O.J. Simpson's hand. If it fits, you can't acquit.
Yeah, what I don't understand is these people that are like I understand like not believing us, thinking we're crazy or whatever, but why are there people that get so obsessed with that concept and get obsessed with like bullying us? Like that's weird. Because like I think even the people who know about us and don't believe us understand we believe what we're talking about, and they kind of think we're mentally ill, you know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
if you go by that narrative and that standpoint, you're literally bullying mentally ill people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, that Oxy guy or whatever, the guy that made the documentary about infiltrating James Rink. And yeah, look, whatever his name is, it's like he understands that all of these people like in our community believe what we're talking about. He knows that we aren't full, like we're not lying, you know what I mean, but we believe in what we're saying. So essentially this guy whose YouTube was very small, he didn't have really a following, he wanted to be a pro YouTuber, but he wasn't getting anywhere. That was his big hit. That was what blew up his YouTube. And it's like, I guess that's what it takes for fame, huh? Like making fun of mentally ill people by his standards. I mean, for us, we there's truth to what we're saying. Yeah, we are mentally ill, but not because something didn't happen to us. It's because we have PTSD, DID, and stuff like that from what did happen to us. But like, yeah, it's
Exactly.
like, and it's just, yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, a lot of these people that are trolls, it's like, that's where they're at, man. Like they're literally berating and bullying mentally ill people on the internet. You gotta be a real fucking loser to do that. I'm sorry. Like
You have to be mentally ill yourself to do that. You're satisfying something inside that makes you feel better by hurting somebody else. And that's pretty much
I never
what it is.
complimented you on your background. It's bad to the bone, man. Is that just like an artificial one, right?
No, I got this on eBay. It's a photographic backdrop. I got a couple of them. This one actually looks the best. I wanted to get something else, but I just haven't had the money yet. I was thinking about maybe a spooky forest. I ordered one of them. It got lost in the mail, and I'm just getting other things bought. And I've got like major financial issues, but eventually I'll get something different. I want to do like trees or something more brighter.
That's the virtual temple complex right there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'll sit in one, but I'll shit on every one of them. all the other ones. What's that? That's the virtual temple complex. Oh, and by the way, I was outed the last time I was on Rob's channel, because right before my feed went out, my voice started to sound like I was in a movie. I guess I don't know, like I was half cyborg or something. And somebody said, he must be AI. And I laughed about it. And then my feed went right out. So yeah, that was the voice box. It wasn't supposed to do that. I apologize. I called Kruger tech support and they got a patch in there and fixed it.
Yeah, if only it did
Work in
work like
progress.
that. It's like, if only it was like, Kruger, hey, yeah, I want to visit my mom, but she's all the way across the country. Can you just open a portal for me real quick?
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be
Yeah.
save
they
us
could
a lot
just
of
do a
time
few
and money.
favors here and there, like
Yeah.
for all the shit they put us through.
No, sorry, you've exhausted your tokens. You got to fly for. You have to fly coach. So we're gonna email you some tickets.
Oh god, it's wild, people, with this time travel stuff. You know, one thing that I remember about these breakaway colonies is like, we know of the 20 and back here as this like hidden veil thing where it's secret, right? But like,
Yeah.
there are breakaway colonies where it's like you can sign up and do a 20 and back, and they're like, hey, do this thing and come back with all this money for your family. You know what I mean? And they advertise it as this great thing, but you work like underpaid for 20 years basically, like, but you come back with all this money because of the time travel. So they act like they're doing you a favor, and like, yeah, and then you come back and your family has a huge debt, so you got to go back. Like, it's crazy,
And you
like
have to
the way
account
they.
for inflation.
Yeah, they do this stuff though. They use this technology out in the open on some of these breakaway colonies, and it's like a programming, like manpower, kind of like, you know what I mean. Like, it's like, oh, you want a job, you need money. Like, there's no excuse. Like, you can just do a 20 and back, and you can instantly have all this money tomorrow. But it's like you got to, they're take advantage. It's like a form of like slavery, really, because they're not paying people enough, and they're taking advantage of them. And so it's like, even once we do get this stuff out in the open, it's still not the end of the battle. Because like, just because it's out in the open doesn't mean their laws are in place yet. Putting out in the open is just step one. Then we actually have to fight in court to make laws to protect people from these technologies. So it's like we have so much work to do, and the last thing we need is people arguing about like, the details. We all know that like there's clones and like time travel and 20 and backs, and there's these nefarious groups, the archonic forces, the Satanists, whatever you want to call them. We all know we have this struggle, the same struggle. So it's like, and it's a huge one. It's a monumental struggle. So what the heck are we doing? Arguing over semantics and like tiny little details, and calling each other names, and I don't know. It's just a bummer to see. Like, I understand this stuff in like growing up, like in high school, we had tiffs like this and stuff like that, my friend groups and things like that. But we're supposed to be adults, and we're supposed to be doing like a disclosure. And I've been that person. I'll admit it. I've been like I don't talk to Eve Howard, and that's kind of my fault. I think. I don't know about you if you talked to her, but that was my fault because I was rude to her, and I don't know why. I feel like it was literally separation programming. Looking back at it, because like she was just posted like an AI image, and then someone posted it without saying where it was from. She's just like, hey, if you're gonna post my stuff, can you please just source it? I really appreciate that. And I'm like, why do you need people to source your stuff? It's like, looking back, I'm like, who cares? Like, she wants people to know the story of the image. Like, that's kind of important. The context is important. So it's like, why the hell did I don't, looking back, like, and I feel like it literally was like a separation program, but I don't know. But like, yeah, that's like her, James, like, there's all these people that I wish I was still working with and I was still close to. They're just two examples of people, because I've had Eve on my show. I never ended up on her show, but I was supportive of her show. And I'm sure if I never did that, it probably would have ended up on it. Like, so it's just like, yeah, why? That's the kind of stuff. I guess that's an example of me being able to show people that I'm not perfect and give an example of something you shouldn't do. It's like, if it's like a minor, stupid, silly thing, why even? I don't know what my problem was there. And I do need to. All of us, I guess, need to step back and truly purposefully do, like, resist, like, try to be friends with people in this community. I think, like, really try to resist not getting along with people. It can be easy to do. And you know what, here's another thing too, is there's gonna be people in this community who maybe kind of don't like their personality. You kind of don't like them. Like, for instance, someone said they didn't. They thought the troll. They said Matthew Morgan gave them like camp counselor vibes. It's like, okay, but is that really a reason to hate someone? If that is true, it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like silly stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah, that's Mornian derangement syndrome. It's like TDS, but it's MDS.
Yeah, just because you don't like someone doesn't, or you don't mesh with someone's personality doesn't mean they're a bad person. Like, there's plenty of like fucking content creators on YouTube that like I don't like their voice or something, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to harass them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just silly.
Hey, we're all assholes sometime, man. I mean, I think I was on Rob's show on the 4th of July and I was in a bad mood. They were messing with me. And I don't even know where that video is at. It's probably should be hidden, but I just had a bad attitude. And that was just, and, I had a bad attitude because it was like, I think it was before the conference and stuff. And, I had an argument with your friend, the conference director, Brian, saying in a fucking stupid phone call that we had when I had to pull out. So he and I are actually going to solve this issue and have a good laugh about it because we're both stupid. And, we let external manipulation and stress and everything else.
That's right. We need to have Brian on the show. That's kind of, I forgot all about that. He would have been a good person to have on the first show. I'm sure we can do that in the future.
We'll get him on there again. I gotta talk to him, directly. So far, I've just said, hey, this is what's going on. I'd like to work this out. And he's giving me the thumbs up. I guess he doesn't have a lot of time. So as soon as it frees up,
his mom's visiting stuff right now, and he's got a kid.
Oh, when you have family, you can forget it.
Family, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in his life right now.
Because you're not even in the right mind to even deal with this shit. This is like the nightmare in the other room sometimes. You got to put the facade on to be around the family. Everything's cool. Yeah.
yeah. That is kind of what it's like sometimes. Although I've just come to the point where I'm pretty open with my family. But...
Yeah.
I just don't care anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't really hide anything anymore. It's kind of a relief, honestly, because I mean, there's certain things that we don't talk about around certain people.
My uncle, when I visited my uncle.
Yeah.
My uncle, who. He gave me this advice, and because we were kind of getting into this stuff, we are talking about it, all the paranormal or whatever you want to call it, and I just told him because I remember he told me because my dad and my uncle got into this stuff, and it kind of drove them crazy. They're starting to figure it out, right? Realizing they're having missing time, things like this, and they literally they're what people will call schizophrenic or whatever, you know what I mean? And he just gave me this advice, like, don't look into whatever that stuff is. I got a nice house, nice family, nice life. He's like, want to know why? Because I didn't look into that shit. He's like, I left it alone, man. My advice to you, leave it alone. So when we started talking about it, I just told him, I was like, I'll be open about it and I'll say stuff, but I try to respect the fact that you said you're going to leave it alone. And so I don't want to open up that can of worms for you. I told him that over a drink, you know what I mean? And he understood that. And it's just like a perspective thing. It's like, I understand. Sometimes I wish I could go back and just take the blue pill and just live a normal life. But I think for some of us, it's not an option. Like for him, it is an option. Good for him. You know what I mean? But for me, I feel like I didn't have that option. And I feel like you can probably relate to that. Like some of us have no choice. Like the red pill is just all we have. Like we can't just pretend it's not real. Because we continually having weird stuff happen to us that reminds us that something's going on.
All right. I had a forced awakening that they tried to co-op and control so that I didn't have a real one. And I didn't have a choice at all in that. And it was very, very painful. And a lot of it was false memories and things. And a lot of it was emotional memories. I had emotional memory torture. And I had post-traumatic stress disorder for 5 years over meeting a trauma twin. He tried to commit suicide. I've had my personality change multiple times. It's wrecked my marriage. It's wrecked my life. I've had him destroy my health. I've had him do so much shit to me, and, I'm lucky to have my mental health to the point where it is because, like you were saying before, we could all be declared mentally ill. I mean, as soon as they hear our stories, it's all immediate you have schizophrenia, and it's not true. It's, and I would be concerned about anybody in this community that gets that diagnosis. Is it really valid? Because I don't
Yeah.
think there's a biological
Well,
test.
even for
I
like
think it's just a determination.
it's unfortunate because for me, I think that it's really like, so my uncle was diagnosed with manic depression, and so was my dad. But then they're like, "Oh, we're wrong. He has schizophrenia." My for my father, he didn't have manic depression. Oh, he has schizophrenia. And then my uncle died before. I think they would have said the same thing about him. They would have said that he had schizophrenia. But I think that they just were MK Ultra. They had multiple personality disorder. They had different personalities coming out. And I think that they just didn't have the resources in that the context to understand what was going on. And now we just have more resources to where we can understand what's going on, and that's the fortunate part. But it just sucks because like when I do try to get treatment for my DID, like I did try to do that, and basically I talked to a therapist and he was real with me. He's like, I don't know much about this DID, but I am a licensed therapist, so he listened to me, and he's like, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get you to somebody who's more specialized in DID, so that they can properly help you, maybe get you on medication or whatever. I'm like, and I said too, I'm like, I'm not opposed to that, but like, I'm gonna be like real with you, and I straight up to my doctor, I'm questionable of the pharmaceutical industry. Like, I've seen medications help people. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but I also know there's like an incentive to give people meds, and maybe that shouldn't be like the first option. Like, I don't. If that's like the first option, that's the only option. Like, I kind of don't trust my doctor. Is kind of what I told him. He's like, "Oh, I get that. Well, how about this? Like, you can just talk to them. You can explain that, whatever." So I wait months, and then I go see this DID therapist, and I see like the nurse or whatever that checks you in and stuff and asks you questions. And she explains to me, she's like, "So by the way, this is just to figure out what meds you want to get on." Like,
Yeah, they're already lining you
I'm
up
like,
first.
look, I literally told my other doctor, like, that's not what I want to do. I'm like, hey, whatever, maybe that's an option, but like, I feel like it's not really, that's not how you fit. Yeah, meds don't help. Thank you. Like, that's kind of what I think. Like, meds kind of don't help. Like, you have, like, if you have trauma or alters or whatever, you have to deal with that. You have to deal with your trauma. You have to deal with your alters. You can't just cover it up with meds. And another thing I figured out too is the medication they wanted to put me on. It's called Abilify, and my father is on Abilify. You want to know what Abilify does?
I think it has I think you need like 2 or 3 other pills to keep from killing yourself, right? Or somebody else, and all the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side
And
effects.
Abilify, it basically what it does is it gives you a chemical lobotomy.
Oh, fuck
So
that. See, that's,
they've
yeah.
taken they're like, instead of giving people like physical like surgery or lobotomies, they are just giving them chemical lobotomies, and that's okay now. That's fine. You know what I mean? It's like that's the medical industry right now. That's where we're at. And look, I don't know if I'm gonna get flagged for this. I'm not a doctor, whatever. This isn't medical advice, but am I not allowed YouTube censorship gods to at least say that I think that's fucked up? I don't know. Probably not, huh? Probably not allowed to say that. I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully, this video doesn't get taken down.
Well, I take Abilify with the Vax. It goes great together. So make a cocktail, a little whiskey.
Oh man. It reminds me of like Harold and Kumar. I haven't watched the video in forever, but he's like, you smoke weed, darling. You can't be smoking weed like that. Just snort a little Prozac like everybody else. And he's just like, it's just like,
Yeah, there was a shirt going around that said Prozac. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. It had this crazy guy on there like spinning it. He had like stars and shit going around his head. He looked crazy.
anyway.
Probably whoever created it probably got sued by Pfizer, whoever makes or whatever that drug.
Yeah, we gotta be careful talking about all those things. Though we're just being silly, just making jokes, having laughs.
Yeah, I enjoy all those drugs. You too. I use them all the time. That's how I keep it together. I have to have a pill for everything.
Yeah,
And when I can't swallow any more pills, I go for liquid.
1 to wake up, 2 to go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, someone said congratulations on your engagement, Kat.
Oh,
Yeah, congratulations, you guys.
all right. I just remember an important thing I gotta do. So
She remembered an important thing she had to do. So
I'll just be over here for a sec. But thank you.
she says thank you.
Yeah, so we should be happy about that, because in this community, as many people will tell you, it'll destroy your marriage. It'll make you permanently single, permanently unemployed.
Yeah, we want that's actually a show that we want. I'm just popping back in. That's actually a show that I had the idea for that we should do soon. Just talking about like relationships in the especially I think we should, because like think of how important like relationships are in the programs. Like think of how important like your lover is to you, and how that's used against people and all that shit. Like I said, like there's a ton of stuff about that you won't find in Cosmo magazine that that's not going to tell you how to deal with that sort of thing, right? So that's something that we want to do for sure, is just do maybe with another couple. We would definitely like to do a show about like relationships.
And honestly, it'd be
SSP
nice to
and
do.
stuff.
It'd be good to do on like with us as a couple, another couple, and maybe like somebody like maybe like you who's had problems and you don't have a relationship
Yeah.
because of what's happened, and you can
Yeah.
kind of explain what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because that's kind
something
of
we
like
wanna do.
a very important, valid perspective, and I feel like that I was on the other end of that for my most of my life too. Was like they tried to make it so I couldn't be with somebody because we as human beings tend to be creatures of, we long for the opposite sex, or not everybody, sometimes it's not the opposite sex, you know what I mean, that we long for a companion, and
Yeah.
Right.
when we don't have one, sometimes it's kind of damaging to the psyche.
Yeah.
Not that it always is. I mean, sometimes it's great to be single, but like, let's be real, like it's part of the targeting process is fucking with your relationships and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that's something that we can kind of make the theme of the next show.
Yeah, I really think
Or
it says something that we're so strong together, and we've been through so much, and we're still here for sure.
Yeah, we've definitely been through a lot together.
And there's another thing too, when like with me, for example, and this is why this is good to have these conversations, because it's like a therapy session. You can talk openly about it if you have the courage to do so. Once you do, you'll find out that it's actually beneficial and it's easy. So after a while, at least. But for me, and knowing, at least at an emotional kind of like intuitive level, who I am, and knowing that I'm not part of this world, it's just that when you have relationships elsewhere, you really do have an eternal relationship. It feels that way. You can merge your consciousness with somebody. You become so unified with them, if you're capable of that. And then you come here and it's completely the opposite of that. And then you still eventually, you either have that memory of self, or it just kind of comes through, it starts to bleed through, and then you pull at it in order to amplify it, because that's you and you want it to be part of you again, because they've taken it away. It creates a massive conflict in every one of your relationships, because they're so damn superficial. They're so based on so many things. It's like, okay, you don't make enough money, so if that's the case, whoever you're seeing, their parents when you're young, they don't respect that. They want all of these unrealistic, unhealthy expectations. And I can understand, wanting your child to be with somebody who's a provider and who meet them, who's going to meet them halfway. But we have so many of these toxic rules and expectations of each other. We completely forget what it's like to love one another because of it.
Yep.
And it's extremely difficult.
Yep.
Especially when you're not used to that. And they use that against me this whole time that I've been manipulated. I mean, it's love bite after love bite. And then, where they pair you up with people that you've known from the past, and then they open the emotions up with one person and not the other, or they just play games with both. It's really, really damaging. And it's a way to pretty much, I mean, it'll drive you to suicide. I mean, I cry like sometimes 5 to 10 times a day over this stuff.
Sorry that you got to go through that, brother. It's not fun.
Yeah, it isn't. But if I can use this to turn this around into a positive, that's what I plan on doing, because I think that's what we need to do, is we need to take these negatives and turn them into positives if we can.
Yeah. learn from it. And the thing that I've learned is they've tried to make me believe, and they try to make us believe that love is a weakness. But I have learned, despite all against all the odds that they've stacked up against me, that that's not true. Love makes people very powerful. It makes people strong, and I hope that you can still see that despite all the fuckery that you've dealt with, Nathan.
Oh, absolutely. I've had that conversation with handlers where, they point out the love is your weakness and we're going to use it against you. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It isn't a weakness for me. It's a strength, because that's what keeps me grounded and keeps me from letting go and giving you up and giving them the rest of me. They're not going to get it for that reason.
I know there are versions of me that, when I was fighting, the reason why I fought and did so well is because I knew I was going to come home to like my family and my loved ones, right? I was going to get to come home to her. Like, so that was why I was able to perform well, is because I had that to look forward to, is that love. So even in these programs where they separate you from your loved ones to control you, kind of contradictory, because it is that love that made you so powerful for them. So it's like even by their own conscripts and by the way that they control things and operate things, they use love's power. They manipulate it and control it, and they understand love's power. So it's like it's just a hugely powerful thing, and it's important for us to kind of understand it, and instead of letting it being manipulated and taken from us. It's important for us to not allow that manipulation and take our power back.
Yep. And it's like we said before, it's not like I used to be like so irony poisoned, like that, like people would say like, oh, love is the answer, man, and it's like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. It's important to not get rid of that irony poisoning, like, so you can really feel that in your heart, because it really is true. Like, it sounds corny, but it really is true.
Like for instance, like when you're walking down the street and you see somebody, and you say hello to them, and if they're just like ignore you or whatever, that's gonna suck. But if they're like, oh hi, that's like a brief moment of joy, just a little tiny thing. And it's just like, that's just an example of just, yeah, your attitude. Why be the guy who just stares at the ground and doesn't respond or doesn't say anything back? Like, why not just be reciprocate that? I see you, I acknowledge you, hello. Like it's just that simple act alone is like a hugely powerful thing.
Yeah, it is. I've stood in line and watched somebody wait on people and become stressed out and just be miserable and then have like crappy customers. And then I've just kind of stood there and I've thought about what to say. And then I size up the situation and I go up and I say something nice, and you can tell that it just lifts them up and it changes things. And then you can walk away and feel like you've just done something special.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to do, is it? Surprisingly.
It is at first, but it's easier after a while, of course, just to stare at the ground like you're talking about. And I noticed when I was growing up, and as a child, I got to the point where I was normal at first, and then all the shit started, and then I couldn't cry anymore, and I withdrew, and that's how I literally stared at the ground. I didn't make eye contact with people. It was the anomalous trauma that comes out of you, and you have to deal with it. And at the time, I had no idea where it was coming from. I thought, because everyone told me that I was raised by my grandmother, not my mother, that was the problem. And that was all part of the MyLab experience too, because they put you into a dysfunctional family situation. And then, my grandmother became like surrogate number two. She wasn't the womb, but she was the one that took care of me after the fact. And but yeah, it's just, you have to get rid of that, because when you stare at the ground and you're not connected to people, you're in misery and you're in pain and you're suffering, and there's no comfort there just to be isolated like that. And that's why it's always good to reach out to people like that if you see them, if they are reachable, and if you're able to do it, if you have that energy inside you, project it outward. You know, don't keep it to
It's
yourself.
powerful. They call it Dan Winters talks about it, how it's like our bliss, and he talks about how like a hugely powerful thing that they do to control people is to try to take their bliss from them. Because if like you have joy and you're happy and you're like satisfied, like you're coming from a place of abundance, like the cup's half full kind of thing. Whereas if you're coming from a place of scarcity, and coming from a place of scarcity is like makes you easier to control. So to be able to find like love in the world and like spread love in the world, like that's literally kind of like anti-mind control. And like I'm not kidding, like it literally is anti-mind control. You know what I mean? Like that's one way to do it, because the mind control wants everybody to be in fear, everybody to be afraid of each other, everybody looking at their fucking phones instead of like talking to each other. Like that's what the mind control wants, and it's surprisingly easy to break through. It's kind of like you said. At first, it's hard, but once you start doing it, it's like, wow, this is really easy. And the fact that nobody doesn't like it. It's not like by walking up and being lighthearted and flipping the situation over and making them laugh or whatever. Like, what fucking harm could that possibly cause, right? So it's like, that's why I say it's easy. It might be hard to wake up the courage to be like, because we're all socially awkward, or I don't know, like every human on the planet, I feel like it's a weird irony of being humans. Like we're social creatures, but we're also socially awkward. So sometimes you might want to do something, but because of that, you might feel weird about it. But as soon as you break through that and you do it, it's just like, oh, wow, that was easy. You got to keep doing stuff like that. That's the way I feel about it. It's like, it's just very important. And
Yeah, it's a lose it or you have to lose. I mean, you have to use it or lose it. It's very easy to lose. It doesn't take long, especially when you're dealing a lot of trauma and you have a lot of pain inside.
I'm glad we still did this, because we almost missed the mark here. But we did it, and it was amazing. We had an awesome audience. I feel like we should probably wrap things up. I kind of want to get dinner going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but like next week, same time, I think we should do this, and maybe we can have Rob on.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the relationship aspect more. Maybe we can get a couple on. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
we got a lot of good ideas cooking.
Yeah, it's already like a really good conduit for information, and like you said, it's a kind of a round table thing. So hopefully next time it's more of a big happy family and less concentrated.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Rob's got some things that he still needs to settle, this may be helpful to him, because if you noticed, he brings that relationship up that he had quite a bit when it comes to like love bite subjects and things. So that would be good for him, and it'll be good for anybody that shows up. So what we did today is an important thing, and I'm glad that we did it, even though it was just the three of us, and even though it's rough. I don't know how long it's been, about an hour, I guess.
Oh, I'm like really surprised how well it went. Like, not that like you.
It's because it needed to happen.
You all rock. I shouldn't be surprised, but I was just like, oh, there should be like 6 people, 5 people, or whatever. But with the 3 of us, did a good job just kind of kicking it off, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
we had to get it started. That's it. And put it out there, put that energy out there, and see who takes it and shows up the next time. And, I hope it grows and it just continues to, fulfill the vision that I had, which was to basically work these things out. And it's a lot harder to have a preconceived notion it's false against someone if you've met them and somebody tells you, say, hey, so and so's this monster, and it's like, wait a minute, I know that person, I've talked to him. It's different when you're watching a video or just reading about somebody, but when you get a chance to meet him, and that's why I think it's important to get people out of the audience who don't normally contribute, get everybody to interact. And so this can be a community again, and instead of because what it is, it's just a group of victims that they're beating the shit out of all the time. We got to fight back by sticking together.
100%. And that's the message. That's it. We have to fight back by sticking together. That's the last bit of the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yep.
We had an awesome audience. We had some heavy hitters here. We had Unscripted Liberation Codes, Remember Your Mission. So that's Matthew Mornian and Mario. I really appreciate you guys being here. And
just be, I guess, just one other thing is just be, like I've said this before, but just be aware. I mean, people in this community should be obviously way more aware than normal people, but just try to be aware when things are a program. Like right now I'm pretty sure I've got a thing going on where like they don't want me to talk to certain people or have friends. So communication, like texts aren't going through, stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that's going on. And I got really upset the first time it happened, but I'm not upset now because I know what's going on. So I don't freak out. I just remain calm. And I think that's hugely important. Just be aware of the programs that are running.
Yeah, with each other and with everybody. I mean, that's where you got to give people space. Just because they're not being their self today doesn't mean that's a permanent state, you know, and you shouldn't get angry at them because it could happen to you the following day. It could happen to you an hour from now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there myself. I mean, we need to care enough about each other to give each other that space. And that starts by getting to know each other better and opening up some discourse. So I'm 100% into this. As long as I can make the time.
I feel like, okay, but another thing,
change my
before we end
schedule.
it, I feel like we can't call it the Unity Project because there's like a million things called the Unity Project.
Yeah.
What if we just called it the Virtual Temple Complex? We'll have to talk about that in
that's
in
good.
private.
I like that.
Hey, why not? I mean,
it's kind of like the inside joke. Why not call it the Virtual Temple Complex? Like,
Yeah.
anyway, we'll talk about that next time. Maybe we'll see. You'll see what the title of the next stream, guys. But thank you so much. You're the awesomest audience ever. We appreciate you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
yeah, thanks, guys. And hey, hang out for a minute.